Alright, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, you already know what time it is. It is 8:30 p.m. on the East, and we have the one, the only, we got the architect on the line. How are you doing this evening?
Peace, I'm doing good, man. Peace to the people.
First and foremost, man, I gotta say, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your evening and actually coming on the radio station.
Oh, no problem, man. Anytime.
So I gotta ask you, what made you decide to get into the music industry initially?
Man, well, my father was a DJ, and, so I grew up around turntables and everything. I had access to them really early. So, I was getting the hip-hop records and whatnot back in the, mid, mid-80s or whatever. And, man, hearing them records, I wanted to know how it was done. And, back then we didn't have anything like that. So, that just started me on a mission to figure out how to get a hold of a sampler and, you know what I mean, and just kind of figure out the science of how they were doing it.
And also, as we already know, you're a member of the Homeliss Derelix. I have to ask you, what's the story behind the formation of that group, and how did you meet the other members?
Man, well, in the area, I was pretty much, I had my little sampler or whatnot, and people around the way kind of knew that I made beats. And I was up at the mall, and I ran into 50 Grand's brother, who knew I made beats. And me and him started working, and then he actually introduced me to 50 Grand. And, from that point on, once me and Grand made the first song, it was just, history was made.
And I remember when you guys actually dropped the self-titled cassette album, back in '93. That was actually not even on a label. If you don't mind me asking, what made you guys decide to actually self-release that album?
Well, the album initially was a demo tape, and we were working with Matt Brown, who was also Peanut Butter Wolf and Charisma's manager, and he was our manager also. And initially that tape was in the industry. It was given to record label people, A&Rs and stuff. And then we decided that, we didn't want to, we're from the Bay Area, so independent was a big thing for us. So, our manager at that point, we all decided, hey, why don't we just press this tape up? And that's what we did. So initially the first tapes weren't even for sale. Then later on, Peanut Butter Wolf was like, yo, I should put this on vinyl. And which was a few years later, so. Yeah, there it is.
And that's actually really cool, and everybody has to have a demo tape. And with that demo tape, did anybody ever reach out to you, when you were handing that tape out to those people?
There was dudes in the press that reached out, Mike Nardone. I can't think of all the names right off the top of my head, but a lot of people reached out on the media side of things. And I don't really remember if any labels actually got at us, because I know it was right away we were deciding that we were going to pretty much try to do our own independent thing and work with Peanut Butter Wolf. So.
And also, you did some work with Total Devastation, actually on the track Back to the Hip Hop, and you were actually called Gary Love. I have to ask you, how did you get connected with Total Devastation, and what made you decide to go with the name Gary Love?
Well, it was actually G Love. My actual name was Gary, but fools call me G Love then. And for whatever reason, they put Gary Love on the record. I don't know why they did that, but it was actually G Love. And Total Devastation, I was linked up with them through Matt Brown, our manager at the time. And then, they were smoking and whatnot, having all the trees. So, that was our connection, you know what I mean? And I would be over there kicking in at their spot. They had a record deal and all this kind of stuff at the time, so. There it was. I made the beat right there with them sitting there at their spot. Next thing I know, we were actually flying to LA to record it. So, it was a crazy experience.
And I most definitely have to agree. Total Devastation is a phenomenal hip-hop group, man. I actually did not know that you were actually a part of that until I did my research for this interview, but it's actually really cool. The Total Devastation is actually one of my favorite groups.
Oh, word. That's dope, man. That's dope. Nah, them dudes is dope, man. And, that song they did was so classic. You know what I mean? You almost didn't even remember that they sampled Tribe Called Quest. You know what I mean? They, really killed it.
And also, when we're on the G Love side of things, you also actually did a song. Sorry, you were the producer for a Coolio track titled "I Remember." I have to ask you, what was it like working with Coolio in the studio and actually being one of his producers?
Man, that was a cool experience, man. So I met Coolio, his brother, through one of my really good friends that I went from elementary to high school with, and he was like, "Yo, his sister's best friend was dating Coolio's brother," and they were like, "Yo, a lot of times people are like, yo, you got to see this guy make these beats." So his brother came through my house. He was like, "Oh, let me see what you got." I just made some beats on the spot. He was like, "I'm gonna call you." Called me months later. He was like, "Drive to LA." I drove down there, and we was there at the ground point of what Coolio was putting together. So you know what I mean. It was like we stayed in the apartment, like not just me. It was like other producers there, other MCs. We was just jammed up in the apartment, man, making music. And I remember the day I was making the beat in the apartment. I had made a bunch of beats. I was turning them off, turning them on. You know how artists do. And Coolio was like, "Yo, man, the next beat you make, man, I'm using the beat. I don't, whatever you do. So whatever you're about to do, you better like it." You know what I mean? And I remember that song.
And I quote me if I'm wrong, but I think you did other production work for Coolio as well. I think it was on the track "It Takes a Thief and I Remember," correct?
Um, no, I think I only got the one Coolio thing off that one song. I remember, but we were working on an R&B group also at that time, and they actually ended up coming out. But me and Coolio parted ways because, like I said, I was really stuck on my Homeliss Derelix, independent, Stones Throw thing. So I did that thing and then came back up to the Bay Area.
So if you don't mind me asking, just pertaining to like the R&B group, I have actually never known that about Coolio. Like you guys were actually forming an R&B group. If you don't mind me asking, what made you guys decide to do that?
The group was called Gangsters and Thugs, and they kind of just represented the sound of and the idea, of what was going on in LA. So it fit in with what he was doing. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like it was R&B, but it was still like really street. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it worked out. So yeah, like I said, the name of the group is Gangsters and Thugs. You probably can find them on YouTube or something like that.
And also, you were actually a tour DJ for Souls of Mischief. I have to ask you, how did that come to be for you? And of course, what was it like working with Souls of Mischief?
Well, I used to have my studio next door to. Well, I've known Souls, different members of the High Road, just being in the Bay Area. I've known them, ran across them my whole career. But I ended up having my studio next door to them while I was recording Encore and out High Street. And we just linking up all the time. I'd be there all the time. One of them dudes would come out like, "Yo, what's up? Let's burn one, blah, blah, whatever." And we had just developed that friendship. And then in that was like I said, like mid 2000s. And then like I said, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, Opio actually had hit me up. I was like, "Yo, man, we about to go on the road. What's up?" And there it is. I was there.
And also, jumping ahead in the timeline a little bit, in 2018, Souls of Mischief actually went on a European tour. I have to ask you, what was it like actually being like out of the country, being like out in Europe, just touring around with Souls of Mischief?
Man, it was great, man. It was amazing to see how many people, people still was on it, man. The shows were big. They were sold out. It was great, man. It was good to see people still vibing. You know what I mean? And really be down for, that original sound.
Yeah, I had a lot of individuals that came on the radio station and told me when they actually go like overseas, like individuals go crazy for hip hop. It's almost like it's still the '90s out there.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm there. I was there signing Homeliss Derelix records, Encore records. They had everything. They knew the ins and outs of what we were doing.
And it must actually be like surreal, just like after all these years, just actually going overseas and people are still reciting your songs, like word for word, and you could probably tell them to turn around in a circle and like just keep spinning around, and they would probably do it.
Yeah, they be getting into it. I mean, they be getting into it. It was definitely cool because I've also tour DJ for Planet Asia for a while too overseas. So the consistency among all the different artists I've done DJ for overseas is crazy, man. Like the people are consistent out there. I got to really give it to them.
And the one thing before we move on a little bit, before I got to ask this about the Homeliss Derelix. I noticed that you guys have a vinyl that actually changes color. And that record was actually Rise It Up. I have to ask you, what made you guys decide to make a record that changes color? And of course, how did you guys make that happen? Because I've never heard about that before.
Well, that record was recorded like around 2006, something like that. And, we didn't actually get a deal for it at the time. It was a weird time in the industry. And this label called Rap the Wrinkle actually just recently, last year, pressed that record up. And, we decided, let's do some color vinyls since it's going to be a limited edition. And, kind of in this era of, collectors. So that's really what that was.
And I have to say, that's actually really cool, because when I was doing my research and I read that, I was like, a record that changes color, that's actually cool. Must be trippy for the listeners as well that smoke a spliff and then watch the record spin around. It might trip them out a little bit.
Yeah, no, definitely, right.
And also, recently, on July 4th, you actually released an album called Chamber Games with A+ from Souls of Mischief. I have to ask you, what's the inspiration behind that album? And of course, where can our listeners buy or stream themselves a copy?
Okay, well, that is actually the second album. So the first album that me and A+ did, which was about 3 months ago, is called Free Dope. And then that album has Curious George on it, and a couple other cats on it. And then we just, like you said, July 4th, dropped Chamber Games. It's the second installment of what we're doing. And, we're just getting back to the, A+ just getting back to the bars. We're in the lab together making the music, having a good time, just trying to, just vibe, man, and try to show the skills, you know what I mean?
And if you don't mind me asking, for our old school listeners, do you have any hard copies available for both of those records for the individuals that still like the hard copy format?
Yes, actually, the Free Dope record, you can get it on vinyl from Shop Herring Records, and then we have some limited CDs that you can also buy from us at A+ at Bandcamp, and the CDs are the CDs for Chamber Games. You can grab them at A+ at Bandcamp, and then the vinyl over at Shop Herring.
And also, back to your production side of things, the one thing I noticed as well, back in 2003, you actually did production work for Turban. I have to ask you, how did you and Turban get connected? And of course, what was it like actually working on Everything is Everything CD?
Well, me and Turban, I was introduced to from Planet Asia. Because that's from the same crew. I was producing songs for Planet Asia, and then he was like, yo, man, you got to meet Turban. And me and Turban linked up, and we did a single with Certified Records. And then from there, we were just working, nonstop. He actually was on the Executive Lounge record that we did a while back on 75 Park. So me and Turban just linked up through Planet Asia, and we're just constantly working, man.
I most definitely agree, man. That album, in my personal opinion, is phenomenal. My favorite track actually on that is called This or That, man. And, so they don't make hip-hop like they used to, unfortunately.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But I gotta ask you, what's next for The Architect? Is there anything I happen to miss during this interview? Anything else you still want to promote? We still have you here live on the radio station?
Well, I've been working with a lot of the MCs, I hate to say younger cats, but, newer dudes that's been coming up. I have a record I did with the guy Fahim, full length on vinyl on Rap the Wrinkle Records. I just got a few songs with Raz Fresco, another dude who's just amazing, man. Younger MCs, as far as I know, but just amazing MCs, man. So yeah, if you're looking in that underground world, you'll see my name popping up in there, man.
Oh, most definitely. Your production credits are through the roof. If you actually look on Discogs, you worked with a lot of phenomenal individuals, especially within the hip-hop industry.
Man, I'm blessed, man. I'm blessed.
But Architect, this is the time in the interview, just before I wrap things up, that I give a chance for the individual that comes on the radio station just a chance to give shoutouts to whomever they want to give shoutouts to, and of course your social media handles. That way our listeners can follow you and stay updated on everything The Architect if they're not already doing so.
Oh, that's what's up, man. Yeah, man. Well, shoot. Let me shout out Planet Asia. You know what I mean? He's gonna be dropping a fly record. I got a couple joints on that. Let me shout out, Homeliss Derelix, 50 grand, Encore, A Plus, Opio, Tajay, Festo. You know what I mean? The whole Souls Mission crew. You know what I mean? Man, y'all can find me on Instagram at Architect HHP on Instagram. Or on Twitter, Architect HHP, Instagram or Twitter. That's where you can find me.
I gotta say, Architect, thank you again so much for taking the time out of your evening and providing not only myself but the listeners with your time. It was an absolute honor and most definitely a privilege. And I gotta say, have yourself a wonderful night, man, and hopefully down the line we can make this happen again.
No doubt, man. I appreciate you, dude. We will definitely build soon.
Most definitely. Thank you so much.
All right, bro. Peace.